Ray Nicholas, and I'm a hydrologist with the National Weather Service.
All right. Now, Ray, everybody, all you have to do is look outside and see, my goodness, the sun is shining, the hills look relatively bare of snow. And so what I am being asked constantly is, what is this going to mean, later on in the spring and summer? Are we going to have a horrible fire season, or is springtime coming too early? And so let's talk about water in western Montana. What's the situation?
It's been a interesting, I guess that's the word I'll use, interesting winter as far as that goes. We've had actually above average precipitation. It's just instead of in the form of snowfall, it's been a lot of rain. So we've kind of turned into a little bit of a Seattle-Portland type weather here this winter here in western Montana. Our precipitation in the mountains has actually been average to, some locations maybe even a little bit above average or above the norm. But if we look at the snowpack, especially like you were mentioning up in that region of extreme northwest Montana, like up in the Libby areas and the basins and streams that feed the Kootenai River system, their snowpack is not there. If you look kind of on the Montana-Idaho border in that kind of lower section of the Clark Fork River Basin, that area also is really lacking in snowpack. So the effect that's going to have is if we don't continue to get our normal precipitation, from basically through the spring and then into the summer, then we could run into a situation where we could have some impacts from drought-related stuff. If we get into some really warm weather and we don't have any precip occurring, any rainfall occurring, then we're going to have in those locations some lower stream flows, and even in any sections of Montana a low stream flow if we don't get normal precip as we go through into the rest of the spring and summer.
Yeah, I had noticed, my wife and I spent the weekend in Spokane, and on the way back we were looking at the river levels, and some of the, especially the Clark Fork, looked extremely low. And as I looked up in the hills, I didn't see a whole lot of snow. So naturally, my first thought was, wow, what's that going to mean for the rivers and streams and fishing and recreation?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, actually, the stream flows, as we've looked at them for like the last 6 months, have actually been flowing near average or above average. And that's because of the snowmelt and rainfall that we've had over this last 6 month time frame. So we're looking at, when we look at the water flows and we look at, precipitation and all that, we kind of like to look at it on a water year average. And water year starts from last October, so October of 2014 up and through now, and the water year goes all the way through September of 2015. So the stream flows have actually been above average right now. But as we start to go forward here, and let's say when we get into the April time frame, we might just see the opposite happening, where the stream flows now are starting to drop below average because we're expecting that snow melt to be there, and that snow melt won't be there because we've already lost and we're losing the low elevation and now into the mid elevation snowpack.
Okay, so can you cast forward as to what that might mean for the fire season, which I know it doesn't really peak until late September, October?
Yeah, our fire season is really driven more by precipitation that we get in the summer months. We could have an abundant snowpack across our entire area, and if we go dry in June, July, and August, we're going to have a bad fire season. So even if we're low on snowpack right now, if we get abundant precip in June, July, and August, or even average precip in June, July, and August, that could limit our fire season. So trying to predict the fire season is very difficult to do. Now, losing this low elevation and mid elevation snowpack certainly isn't going to help things. If we don't get precipitation, having these areas dry out now and then not have precipitation regenerate the forest as far as providing moisture to it and providing moisture to the soils, then we could get into a bad fire season.